What's up, guys? Good morning and happy Friday. Guys, we got a big weekend ahead with a UFC card. We got college football, NFL, of course, MLB still trickling along, and 3 games in the CFL. And I like these games this weekend in CFL action, so cannot wait to dive into some of that stuff. We got Jeff Dawson with us as usual to close out the week here on this Friday show. And guys, we hit a big one last night in the NFL with Shakir over 40 and a half receiving yards. And he was probably one of the only guys in that whole game that went over the receiving yard prop. Even better of a feeling, hit with 7 minutes to go in the second quarter. And you got to love it. The routes that he runs was a perfect matchup for the Miami defense, and it worked out that way, catching those nice 10-yard slants. And really capitalized on it, and we made some money. That promo code in the top right corner, AM39, that ends at the end of September, guys, but that is 3 days for $39. Friday is the best day to sign up with that code for a 3-day pass because you don't have to pay for any individual picks. You're going to get my plays for Friday, get my plays for Saturday, get my plays for Sunday. All the plays I release for $39. So join me, guys, if you'd like. My link, of course, is below, wt.buzz/AM. And let's make some money this weekend across the board in football. Want to talk some team totals, want to talk some sides, want to talk some totals overall. But it's overreaction week in the NFL, so I'm curious to hear what Jeff has and kind of his reactions from week one, moving towards week number 2, and also some college football. So let's get right into it and bring him in. Mr. Dawson, happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday the 13th. I remember when I was young, kid had hair. Friday the 13th, when you went to school, you're always ducking, bobbing, and weaving. The older you get, you're just like, bring it on, bring it on. NFL, you talked about it last night's game, and the number stunk to high heaven to me. Here's a Josh Allen, 6-0 on Thursday nights, 9-1 his last 10 against Miami. We know Tua's problems against the Bills, yet Dolphins favored by 2.5. A Bills team total 23.5. They're like, come on, come on. Well, get the banana in the tailpipe on the NFL side. We had that Miami team total over. Didn't get that, of course, to the window. We did have South Alabama team total over 48.5, and they scored 87. So I felt pretty good on that side there. But thoughts and prayers, of course, to Tua. Again, his third concussion. It'd be interesting to see how he handles it, how the doctors handle it, how the NFL handles it. If he is forced to retire, the Dolphins, I think, will still owe him like $124 million. He's a bright young kid, so I hope he takes it slow and really figures this out, Andrew.
It's tragic. It's extremely sad. And, I think that it goes without saying, and the elephant in the room is this, Jeff. For the rest of his life, he's going to watch that clip and think, why did I dive head first? But the problem is that when you're a football player and you're an athlete and you're playing any sport, you're not thinking in the game about your safety. Oh, I should slide here and not. Like a lot of quarterbacks, they know to slide, but he wasn't thinking that. He's thinking, get as far as he can, jump head first, get all those yards. Unfortunately, based on his history, it probably should be ingrained in his head for him not to do that, but it's extremely sad. And I just hope that, if he's not hanging the cleats up, he takes a lot of time away from the game. The thing is, too, the media is not only going to look at Tua about this, but as you said, the team itself and the doctors are going to be put, because you know what, you talked about that, and I'm not trying to be the harsh one here talking about the business side of things, but Jeff, they're going to owe him a hell of a lot more money in lawsuit stuff. If they put him back out there again and something even worse happens, they're better off, taking it slow with him, giving him the money that he deserves and letting him, sail into the sunset in Hawaii. But he's not going to want to do that. He'll want to play. It's really tragic, but it's going to be the right people have to make the right decisions for Tua, and hopefully they do. It's extremely sad. But Jeff, today I wanted to talk about mostly just college football and NFL. We can throw out some CFL stuff at some point, but um, we're gonna just kind of blast through some stuff. But what are you seeing right now in college football for this week? Because everybody that I'm talking to says it's an ugly week, and the ugly weeks aren't those the best weeks for kind of finding those hidden gems? Wouldn't you say?
I talk about this all the time. You don't need myself and anyone else in our lanes to give you a side on a Michigan or a Texas or what the big premier games are because just go to social media and there's 50,000 people on Michigan, there's 50,000 people on Texas. So what we try to do here at ECSI is again keep peeling those layers back. Again, we had the South Alabama team total over and we had them minus 24 first half for some pizza and beer there. So it's the obscure games. And the funny thing is, Andrew, you get these guys that pump out their chests and whenever it is, October, November, that are playing the MAC games because they're on ESPN on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I play the small schools too. Well, you only do when they're headliners. So again, everyone I've talked to, again, it is an ugly week. There's but sometimes, as you said, ugly is better. And again, you just got to do the work. You got to peel the layers back. As you know, I enjoy the team total side. I was on here last Friday. And I reached out to the world, everyone watching and listening, and I threw out a 299 through the Super Bowl. The funny thing is, the people that acted on it went 3-0 on Friday. They went 2-0 to start the Saturday afternoon. If you came in and paid the 299, we've already paid for the service. We're up over 5.5 units. So you paid for the service, and you already got 250 in your pocket, and this weekend hasn't even started.
Perfect. Yeah. And, people have to know that Jeff's doing all kinds of free content, all kinds of videos every single day. But if you want his top plays, which I'm blessed to receive on a daily basis, eastcoastsportsinvestors.com is the place to go. And the gym membership, as you describe it, a long-term play there. And that was a real good deal you were giving people last week, Jeff. That's for sure. I hope people were taking advantage of it.
And listen, I know. I said 299. I mean, if you just did the gym membership for 6 months, again, that was $600. We were trying to kind of. We've been doing shows now for years, so I'm trying to bring us all together here with that gym membership for $299. And had a few people reach out and say, I can't afford the $299. And I'm not trying to be a wise guy and say, hey, we're offering a layaway here because I can't figure that out on PayPal or however the pay things are. So that's why we did what we did. But when we wrap up today, I might be able to help out some people that are willing to dive in for a shorter scale, but we'll get to that at the end of the show.
Jeff, I'm seeing tonight UNLV Kansas, Arizona Kansas State. Then we've got some interesting games obviously coming up on Saturday. People are always interested in talking about Alabama taking on Wisconsin. We've got LSU, South Carolina. A good friend of mine actually will be at that game, the South Carolina game. Florida, Texas A&M. A couple games that kind of stuck out to me, but I know that you're not shy to look at the smaller schools, and I also want to know what your thoughts are right now on BC, because BC had that nice win early on in their season. So before we jump into NFL, which I feel like I can contribute a lot more to, any picks you can give out to us here for college football this weekend?
Yesterday at 11 a.m., we have Paul Stone every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and he is fabulous. If you're not following him, go follow Paul Stone. How he breaks down the game, and like you in hockey, where you go into the fourth line and where they played middle school, Paul can do the same thing. He thinks that Alabama, Wisconsin is an overreaction. He kind of thinks that number's a tad too high. We've seen it tip to 16.5 right now at the Circa. We're expecting a low-scoring game in that one there. So we're kind of leaning towards the Badgers side there. We haven't released that one. The same with LSU, South Carolina. Unfortunately, a 12 noon game. back way in the day, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, South Carolina was one of those places that you didn't want to play. The light show, the entrance, the place is rocking, and they get a noon, so that benefits, I think, LSU. The kids won't be able to get up as lathered up as we would hope them, but again, I'm hearing the dogs barking on that side. You talked about BC opening day, Tallahassee, 16.5 point underdogs, win the game outright, run for 263 yards. Was at the game on the field last Saturday at 3:30 against Duquesne. I think 42 nothing at halftime, 56-58 nothing final. Yet they're 15.5 point underdogs. So is it the banana in the tailpipe? Everyone that had Florida State against BC is running to BC this side. Well, Jesus, I'm going to get my money back there. Not so fast here. Not so fast. It's a tough spot. Missouri, real strong on both sides. I lean Missouri here because I think they're begging for some BC money. We're hoping the line goes down a little. BC hosts Michigan State 8 p.m. next Saturday night, red bandana game. So two tough games here. Michigan State stuns the world, goes into Maryland last Saturday. We had the team total Michigan State over. We cashed that early fourth quarter. They go on to win that game outright. So, currently as we speak, slight lean to Wisconsin, slight lean to South Carolina, slight lean to Missouri, but we're really waiting for those team totals to be released early tonight, and then we'll have a better feel on them.
I'm excited. I'll be following along with those plays. I'm going to a wedding tomorrow, Jeff, and I was told by Kelly in Vegas that people aren't supposed to, have weddings during football season. I guess Saturdays aren't really as big here as Sundays are as far as football is concerned, but it's going to be fun. It's a beautiful time of year for a wedding, but I'll definitely have my eye on some games, and I'll definitely be having my eye on some of the UFC fights tomorrow night. Which I know you've been doing some content with the UFC with Gam Lou, so people can check that out as well. I'll probably have two client plays. There's actually one total that stuck out to me in UFC for this weekend that I'm going to release here this afternoon. So looking forward to that. But Jeff, NFL Week 2, known as Overreaction Week. Now, here's the problem: is that a lot of people know that now. Right. So it's not something that's, you could say even 5 years ago, it was as easy as taking the team that got their asses kicked in week 1 and betting on them in week 2. But when I look at all these tweets from bookmakers and people that say they spoke to bookmakers, they're tweeting out, Jeff, the numbers that they've seen be adjusted throughout the week. Which game do you think has the biggest overreaction? Obviously, I don't mean point spread wise, but which team's effort right now? The biggest story, obviously, is the Bengals going from playing the Pats week 1 to playing the Chiefs week 2. That's quite a bit of a difference. But you've got some teams like the Panthers right now. I think I had, a lot of free picks that went well. A lot of stuff I said last week went well. But I sure as hell hyped up the Panthers. And, well, before I even sat down to watch the game, they were down 17-0. Can they cover this week? I'm not sure, but overreactions. Who do you think? This is about how the question I'll ask you. Who didn't play well last week that you think is worth betting on this week?
Well, I was right with you with the Panthers. We sent out our action parlay and it's funny, we had 3 dogs of the day on the desk. We chose the wrong dog. Obviously, the Panthers had fleas, and Bryce Young's first, throw seemed like it was a pick. Overreaction is great. I mean, no one could have played any worse than the Panthers or the Browns. Both the perfect storm for the Saints in Dallas. When it comes to spread and overreaction, obviously that goes to your favorite team there, the Packers, as Indianapolis travels there. A Green Bay team that was going to be 3.5, 4-point favorites with Jordan Love. What's Love got to do with it? And it was an 8-point flip. And that's Patrick Mahomes-esque. I mean, you brought Malik over for a reason to hold the clipboard and learn. Well, his feet are going to be put right to the fire there. I think they had that number at 3 for a reason because they got to do everything to get some Packer money, and Packer money came in last night. I call it the Texas oil money on Thursday nights, and on Friday it's the California gold rush as these guys flock into Vegas. It's down to 2.5 there, but again, Panthers this week are, where's my eyes, hosting the Chargers. The Chargers first road game obviously opened at 3.5, now 4.5 again. If you had the Panthers last week, hold your nose. You got to go back to the Panthers again and grab them at 4.5. It's at 5.5 right now at South Point. But here's something to listen, guys. The Mecca, Circa, Jeffrey Benson, Derek Stevens, the sharpest of the sharp. Okay, they're holding a 4.5 while everyone's 5.5. Okay, so he's getting some sharp play on the Panthers. Cleveland travels to Jacksonville, opened at 2, now 3. I will tell you this again: you want to be on the Cleveland side, hold your nose. Run to, again, walk to the window. Again, pizza, beer, however you want to do it. And you talked about Kansas City Thursday night. 10 days ago, it seems like 2 months ago, beats the Ravens. Lively's sneaker was just a quarter inch too big, or the Ravens go for 2 for the win. Cincinnati loses to my Patriots there. Sounds like T. Higgins out again, Jamar Chase pouting. Again, that number opened up at 3.5 and is now ballooned to 5.5 there. I'm telling you right now, guys, be careful, be careful. I know the Bengals aren't ripe this game. If it was week 6, 7, or 8, I'd feel a lot more comfortable. But for me, Joe and the Bengals has been kind of Patrick's kryptonite. So even though Andy Reid's record with extended rest is phenomenal, I lean Joe Burrow there. I think they'll keep it competitive. The under over of 48. I think this is one of those 24-20 games, somewhere in that, 27-24, somewhere in there. And last but not least, my Patriots 1-0 shocked the world, beat the Bengals. Expecting a low scoring game there. Opened at 3. There are some 3.5s. I lean Patriots plus the 3.5. Sprinkle a little beer and pizza. Who would have thought they could have started 2-0 this year, Andrew? And I definitely lean to the under in this. I think it's going to be again a Ramondre Stevenson and the Patriots defense slowing Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, and the rest of that team.
I sent out -3 with the Seahawks earlier in the week, but I'm with you. I think that's one of those ones where maybe it's the defense that's gonna if they can keep that game under the total and low scoring, they could cover that point spread. If the game starts seeing some points, then it could be a little bit different. Since Brady left the Patriots, is Gillette this undefeated, shield right now that's that intimidating to walk into? Is kind of my question as well. I don't think Gillette has that same feel that it once had, and people talking about travel. Well, I can guarantee you Seattle would way rather travel in week 2 than week 12. So I think that if you're on vacation and you're doing a lot of stuff the first day or two, you're going to have energy. If you're asking me to go do a bunch of stuff with you on days 6 or 7 of our excursion, I'm going to be a little bit more tired. So in week 12, if they had to travel across the country, then yeah, sure, they'd be a little tired. But that game, it's not my favorite play of the week. And a lot of the ones you just said, that's the thing. The Bengals one, it is a decent sized number there, and you're going to hear, like, I had a buddy text me and be like, look, I know we don't like to overreact, but the Bengals look bad. And then in my head, I'm like, maybe I should write this down, right? Maybe I should write that down. Yeah, the Panthers, Jeff, you couldn't have said it any better. It's tough, though, because it's one of those ones where it's kind of like me fading the Ottawa Red Blacks in the CFL like 5 times. If I lose on them once and I go back, and then if you go back on them, you're like, okay, cool, I was right about this team. We're going to be 1-1 now. But if the Panthers screw me again back-to-back weeks, I'm going to think, why did I put my money on this horrible team? But I think this is a spot that's worthy of doing so. Um, Giants Commanders, probably the toilet bowl ugly game of the week. I would, if you can get a decent number, I would tease up the Giants, or I would take a look at maybe some player props for Giant players, because that Commanders defense is still the Commanders defense. So I don't care if it's Daniel Jones throwing the ball. There's still going to be some holes compared to what they dealt with last week. I truly believe that. What else was I going to mention here? Some props I wanted to go over here, Jeff. Speaking of, I think one game that we didn't mention, the team that beat the Panthers, New Orleans. Are you? We did mention that. You mentioned that one. New Orleans against the Cowboys. I actually lean towards the over in that game. If you could have gotten the 5.5, I wouldn't have talked anybody off the boys there in that one. Kind of lean towards the over, because it's one of those games where it's like, you know what? Last week, if there's one thing we can say about the Saints, they moved the ball. Young looked pretty bad, and he gave the ball a couple times to the Saints. But wouldn't be shocked to see the Saints be able to move the ball a little bit. Derek Carr can still throw the ball. Chances are he probably will throw the ball to the other team at least once and put them in good field position. Player props for one matchup here. We got the Raiders and the Ravens. I can't stop hearing from people about how bad this Raiders team is. How about Gardner Minshew? His number is 200.5 for his passing yard number. That's about as low as it gets for a passing yard number. But guess what? When you have an 8-point underdog, how often are they going to be able to run the ball in the second half? Is this team going to be able to run the ball at all? 200 yards seems a little bit light. Baker Mayfield, somebody I was kind of interested here. We'll pull up the numbers for his passing yards, because I've been pretty impressed, and nobody gives this guy too much credit here. The numbers that he's putting together: 289, 349, 337, 309. Last handful of games for Baker Mayfield. Rock steady completion percentage. I already like the over in this game, Jeff, but Baker Mayfield over 261.5 passing yards is interesting for me. And the last one I'll give out before I throw it back to you for any more thoughts before we close the show out: Saquon, the guy that absolutely torched my Packers. I like his receiving yards this week, Jeff. I like his receiving. He went over the number last week, but just kind of barely went over it. Look, he's not going to score a touchdown every time he runs the ball this week, I don't think. But I think he's still going to be a guy that's involved in the receiving game just because of how athletic he is. You give him one catch, he finds one hole, he's gone for 20 yards. I love these receiving props with running backs, and he's somebody that I have circled for this week. But I'm excited, as you can tell, for the games. And the games that you mentioned, I think people should definitely pick and choose their spots with some of these overreactions and definitely try and jump on those teams, because there's a real good record for some of them. And Ralph Michaels sent me a stat about a team that was plus 3.5 or higher in week one that won outright 41% the next week, ATS, since 2011. So that's pretty interesting. These teams, if they have a big outright upset week one, they're usually not doing too well in week two, ATS. But any more thoughts in the NFL, Jeff? And close things out again by letting us know what you have going on all weekend long.
I'm going to go to the desert at 4:05. The Rams opened up 2-point favorites with a 48. Now there was a flip. Arizona now -1 with a 48.5 at the Circa. You look at Arizona, and if Kyler Murray lifted his head up and looked to the right, and Marvin Harrison was 20 yards wide open, that was the game tying touchdown, and the extra point was for the win. And you look at the performance that the Buffalo and Buffalo D put on there. So again, tears for fears. We do want to rule the world, by the way. So but here's my suggestion. When you go to the window on Sunday, pull up the team totals, okay? And the first one, either or, and you're going to say, Jeff, you're crazy here. Just trust me on this. Whoever has the 24.5 on that team total, it will be juiced to the under. Take the over, okay? So if the Rams have 24.5 juiced under, take the Rams. If it's the Cardinals which will probably be 24.5 juiced under. Take the Cardinals over there. As for wrapping the show up here, I'm going to go live in 6 minutes for the NCAA Insiders, 3 Men in a Box, and Terry Smith from Atlanta Steak and Seafood will come on talking some Georgia football. And what we're going to do very simply is this. If you were watching the show last week and you got nervous or you're afraid to reach out to me, I will hold a spot or two if you want to go through the Super Bowl for $2.99. It's a savings of $300. It's a 50% savings. All sports delivered to you via text and email. Now, if you're like, Jeff, I don't got $2.99 and you don't want to sign up for the ECSI gym membership, here's what I'm going to do for you. Okay, $99. You get the rest of September for free and the full month of October. So you're getting 17 days free and you're getting the whole month of October. And then we'll circle back for November 1st to see what you want to do. So go follow me on Twitter at EC Sports Invest. Send me a DM. Say, hey, Jeff, I want to do through the Super Bowl for $2.99. Or, hey, I'll take the free 17 days in September and the month of October for $99. Or send us an email to eastcoastsportsinvestors@gmail.com.
That's a great deal. That's a deal people should be taking advantage of. Slow and steady wins the race, and that's what you're going to get with Jeff, just constantly making money for everybody that's getting those emails. Slow and steady wins the race. All right, guys, keep an eye out. The 24.5 plus money with those team totals in the Rams and Cardinals game. All right, guys, AM39, $39 for 3 days of all my plays. Regular price for 1 day is $39. You're going to get all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for $39 using that promo AM39. Big 5% winner last night. All kinds of plays coming out today for the weekend. Thanks for watching. Great starting. I was going to say great start in the day, but I guess it's pretty 11 a.m. now. But great to close the week out with Mr. Dawson. We'll see you guys next time right here on the show.